Well, professional hockey in Wisconsin had a few false starts until the Admirals came along, and of course, they're still playing today. I have a good friend that was on those early Admirals teams. He's my resource for most of these stories from the early years. He didn't want to be in my video, though. Anyway, I'll tell you about those early years and what was out there to collect. Coming right up. Well, I have a few programs from early hockey teams. I know very little about them. My earliest one is from a 1953 tournament. Marlo Suter and Orv Walsvik are on the Madison team. Now, Marlo Suter was a Badger and a father to Bob Suter, who won the gold medal in 1980, and a father to Gary Suter, who had a long and very good Hall of Fame NHL career. And he's a grandfather to Ryan Suter, who's a great NHL player right now. Now, Irv Walsvik became a referee, and I'm assuming it's during an Admiral game. He made a penalty call on Wayne Caufield where Wayne didn't like it. The other team scored on a power play, and Wayne came flying out of the penalty box and cold cocked him. Rock'em Sock'em Hockey, just like the movie Slapshot, which, by the way, if you have not seen, you need to. Another team that was in the area at the time were the Iron Ridge Rangers, coached by Okie Brum. Now, Okie Brum signed the Hanson brothers from the movie to actually play for his team. Okie Brum is a cool guy, and someone should make a movie about Okie Brum. But I don't want to get too far off track here. The arena was seldom set up for hockey. After all, this town needed their roller derby and wrestling. People that have told me that those were much bigger draws than something like hockey. Ugh. Teams like the Chiefs and the Seagulls likely played at the outdoor rink at State Fair Park. It was called the Coliseum. I think there was a team called the Milwaukee Clarks, too, somewhere in there, sponsored by Clark gas stations. Now, the Falcons I don't know much about, but Rod Pavela is on that team, and he was a 1960 Olympic gold medal winner from that hockey team. Well, things changed around 1970 when Wilson Park got an indoor rink. So a guy named Reed Fansher put an ad in the paper to form a team, and about 25 guys showed up. So almost everyone made the team just for showing up. They wore green and white uniforms with no logo on them, and they were independent, so they just played like whoever they could find. The team voted on calling themselves the Wings, and they played 15 games in 1970, and they won 8 of them. Well, this is a Wings jersey. Paul Dowd and Beaver Lowney were on the team, and they bought their uniforms. Reed stayed with the team for a long time in some capacity, but in the summer of 1970, he sold the team to Irv Morar and Bill Chimo. Now, Bill Chimo owned a bunch of billboards all over town, and Irv Morar sold Admiral Appliances. So they changed the name to Admirals. The first year programs were basically just a sheet of paper with rosters on them, but they had a logo now, probably made by Reho Veronen's wife. Not positive, but my source thinks that's where it came from. Well, they didn't put it on the jerseys yet, but they had it on other stuff. Now, John Chandick was the coach, and he was recruited or invited by Sandy McAndrew, who was the leading scorer of that team. And Tony Skazafev scored the first goal ever for the Admirals, if you care about that kind of trivia. Now, my friend Jimmy Paul answered the original ad, but he was already 29 years old and hadn't skated in 10 years. He could have been on the team, but they asked him to be a lineman for the Wings, and was put on the Admirals for the first 2 years. Now, after the first year, they had a banquet. I should say the first year as an Admiral, they had a banquet where the players got together and they got a giant iron hockey skate that functioned as a bottle opener. Here's the team that won a tournament, and here's a button with the original logo. Here's a team picture. Here's a signed stick from the first year Admirals. Here's a jacket the players had, cufflinks, and ladies' charm bracelet given to the players at that banquet. Then I got a second year team jacket. Well, the first year they actually got paid when they were the Admirals, and they got $20 a game, which most of them drank up immediately. The second year program actually looked like programs and cost 50 cents. Admiral TVs prominently advertised on the back. Here's Jimmy. You know, he's in the Wisconsin Hockey Hall of Fame for other things than being an Admiral. He was coached for years and years and years for all different levels of youth hockey and started Shaw, among other things. Well, the Wisconsin Hockey Hall of Fame is in Eagle River, and that's pretty cool. If you're in a neighborhood, stop in. In 72-73, there was a lot of turnover. I'm not sure if the colors got changed at that point or if it was the next year, but they got switched to the red, white, and blue either that year or the next. Now, Wayne Caufield was asked to join the team by Barney Loomis. Caufield was a Red Wings draft pick who never played for them. Now, Caufield's grandson, Cole, was a Badger and the Hobie Baker Award winner like this year, and now plays for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, when Wayne was playing for the Sioux Canadians, they played against the Admirals. They asked him to join the team. Well, he was given player-coach title, and he coached for basically 2 years, and basically ran the team, which means basically everybody got cut. Now, for the 73-74 season, they had a new logo, seen here, and they weren't independent anymore. They joined the USHL, and they actually won the championship in 76. Here's a program with Wayne on it. I do have a team-signed stick from 74-75, along with a very broken, used goalie stick from the Admirals of the 80s. Phil Whitlift was on that team, those early 70s teams, early to mid-70s. Now, Phil was an important part of the Admirals organization for years because he played, then he was coach, and he was GM. In the mid-70s, he was up north in winter with the team trainer, and they had a car wreck, and Phil almost died. From 77 to 81, they had a goofy Admiral guy logo. I do have a pennant signed by Yves Preston, Danny LaCour, Fred Berry, and Dale Yakachuk, the stars of the team at the time. Now, Danny was a great player. He had the most points in a season for the IHL, and since there's no IHL anymore, that record's going to stand forever. The 77-78 team was part of the IHL, so a little better league. That's because they got new owners. The former Blackhawks announcer Lloyd Pettit and his wife, Jane, bought it, and Jane was a Bradley and later named the Bradley Center. Now let's talk about the 1980 Miracle on Ice team. There were 3 Wisconsin connections on that team. Again, Bob Suter, who I mentioned, was a Badger, and unfortunately was the first person to die from that team. Mark Johnson, son of Coach Badger Bob Johnson, had a very good long NHL career and coached the Badger women from 2002 until now. Mark Johnson was drafted by the Penguins. Buzz Schneider was on the Conehead line in the Olympics. He was an Admiral for 2 seasons from 77 till 79. He was also on the 1976 Olympic team. He played for Herb Brooks at the University of Minnesota. He also was drafted by the Penguins but never made the NHL. I have a nice Fred Berry game-used jersey. You know, as a collector, stuff you use in games is really the best stuff to get. Probably still behind championship rings and significant historical moment stuff. But, you know, in the early 80s, players didn't get a new jersey every time it got damaged. So you do like to see the repairs and the damage to a game-used jersey. When Jimmy introduced me to Fred to have him sign it, Fred wasn't sure what year it was, but it's early 80s. Fred was drafted by the Red Wings and played 3 games for them. He's a retired number for the Admirals. Well, those were the early years, and we'll get into more next time. Thanks for watching. I hope you had as much fun as I did.